Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/Rogue Matter and facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts. Podcast download immediately available after the live stream. I'm your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by my cohort in crime, the Lord of the Radio, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Is it great? I'm glad. I'm happy to hear that it's great to be back because we've got a jam-packed show tonight, right? I like to kind of liken our show to sports radio for nerds, okay? And our big Super Bowls, or just our big events, are big movies that came out, and immediately just loving the fact that we got Shang-Chi, and we were, and I got to learn how to pronounce it, so that was even better. That was like the best part of the movie.
Yeah, he spent like 10 minutes explaining how that name works in the film.
So very helpful on their part, but also just pretty cool that we get this like Super Bowl event essentially, which is of course Shang-Chi. Now,
okay. Yes.
We've also got a couple other things to talk about. We got Dune news. We've got Matrix 4, which is coming out. Well, the trailer is coming out tomorrow. We're live right now, Wednesday night. So they gave us a little sneak peek. And we've also got a little Shang-Chi domino effect going on. And you've got some what if rogue rage, both positive and negative rogue rage for what if. So like I said, I mean, it's jam-packed. This is like our start of the regular season because that's basically football's coming back, so I'll liken it to that. Does that get you fired up, Hassan?
No, because I hate football.
Fair enough. All right. We are going to kick things off with the hottest takes in pop culture. Obviously, we're gonna get into Shang-Chi in a second, but we're gonna start with Dune. Yeah. Okay, so Dune is coming out later this year, and it is. Is it still? It's getting a theatrical window, but it's also simultaneously being released on HBO Max. Pretty much like everything Warner.
Yeah,
Brothers.
It seems like a day and date.
Yeah,
it's a day and date release.
But it debuted at a festival, and it got an 8-minute standing ovation at the world premiere. Basically, it was fantastic, which was Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao, who's the director of Eternal, summed up the general impression of Denis Villeneuve's wildly anticipated sci-fi epic.
Villeneuve. His name is Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. Yes, not Villeneuve. I don't know what you're saying.
Well, I'm reading it. I'm reading it with a very, Spanish accent. I think it's pretty accurate. As a cascade of bravos, this is from Hollywood Reporter, rained down on Venice's Sala Grande Cinema, Zhao, who is a member of the festival's competition jury, rushed through the aisles to greet the director with a big hug, shouting, "Fantastic." The crowd's standing ovation, meanwhile, roared on for a continuous 8 minutes.
Yeah, not contentious. Completely different monster right there.
Yeah,
right.
That would...
Okay, continuous.
You know, there was one time I was at Wizard, and someone gave me a headline to post on the Wizard website, and it was like Brian Hitch resigns from Marvel, and they forgot the dash in it. And someone wrote in like, "Thank you. I panicked and thought Brian Hitch was no longer working at Marvel." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." Hyphen really makes a big difference. Anyway, continuous 8 minutes. I know you're a big Dune guy, right? Like I don't know. I really don't know anything about Dune. So I got to lean on you to determine the magnitude. But apparently everyone who's seen this so far in previews is saying like this thing is the real deal. Is this a Delta buster? You know, we're gonna be in a little bit of a theme, I think, in this. No?
No.
Like, is this an event worthy of people going and getting out and seeing it in the theater? Because I mean, Villeneuve wants it to be a theater movie. Like, he's not happy about the day and date streaming.
No, he's not. He's made various amounts of promises. He's got a lot of contracts that are going to get violated or breached because of it. So he's of the mind that it'll be a disaster. That the day and date will be a disaster and hamper the ability of the film to find the audience that he wants, and also greenlight the other two movies about this that he wants to make. So it's not working out for him. Will it be I mean, look, it's very possible, but if you're just going to ask me right out, I say no, because it's always best to err on the side of caution.
Well, obviously, up until now, I would have said, oh, that's a shoo-in. Although what we're seeing with the day and date stuff versus the theatrical window, and we'll get into the Shang-Chi's box office success momentarily. You know, if you make something that's worthy of an event, and you make something that is not necessarily something that you can wait for, people will go and see it. However, they've really complicated things by doing the day and date, which I don't blame them. They needed to get people to subscribe to the service, so they said all of our movies are going to be day and date this year, streaming simultaneously. But also, you know, you had variables like the Delta variant. You didn't have a vaccine when they announced this. You know, there were so many things that from a bottom line standpoint was like, uh-oh. I think the most they can hope for with this movie is that it does what Suicide Squad did, which is make a respectable amount of money at the box office, but get a high number of streams. Because now what you're doing with the high number of streams is you're kind of validating, like, okay, there is an audience out there for this. This is obviously supposed to be the first of many Dune films, right? This is supposed to be a franchise. I would think that that's what you're hoping for if you're HBO. Is that
I don't
fair?
disagree. Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, the thing is, everybody's going to have to change the model of what success looks like. You know, in this present situation that we're in, who knows if that's going to change? You know, now that Shang-Chi is out and considered at the moment, because every time I say it's a success, like 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, the biggest flop that Marvel ever had. You know, even though it's been billed as a success. So like as of this week,
wait, who's saying it's a big flop? I mean, everyone is just saying it's massively successful.
No, I didn't say anybody said it. I said every time I say it's a success, it comes out that we crunched the numbers again, and it turns out it's a flop.
Yeah.
So, at the moment, it's a success.
Yeah.
So that means that the box office is not dead. Going to movies is not dead. We're just gonna have to change our model again. You know, We're gonna have to change what success looks like, and what alter our expectations, or manage our expectations before each and every title drops. So this is Dune. Dune's working really hard to drum up a lot of buzz before next month, before it drops out next month. And it's working really hard for the Oscars, it's working really hard for all the prestige and the and all the ancillary markets that it can get. And it is a niche audience because Dune has never been a worldwide sensation. You know, it's not a Star Wars movie. It can be. It's as strong as, and actually a lot of stuff from Star Wars comes from Dune, and the more familiar our audience becomes with the source material, the more they'll understand that. But at the moment, it's got a lot standing against it. It's got the David Lynch, the 4-hour to the 2 to 3 to 4 hour David Lynch movie that hovers in the, it's always in the background, like the redheaded stepchild of all moviedom, right? That was the most famous flop yet. What did they call that? Cult classics, of all times. It's a very beloved film amongst the niche audience,
right?
Okay, even though it's flawed. You've got the miniseries, the Dune miniseries, the two of them for the first two books, actually first three books, excuse me. The first one, the first miniseries covering the first book, and then the second miniseries covering the second two books. they were well received within the niche audience. In fact, they are the first miniseries of Dune is widely considered the best quote unquote to date adaptation of the book that there's ever been.
Right.
So let's we're looking at the Villeneuve movie to kind of to kind of crush that record, hopefully. So, but it's got a lot of baggage. I said all that to say that the franchise in itself has a lot of baggage, and now this movie is not only a half a movie because it's only half the book, right? So I'm sure it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to feel like a full experience, but it's only half the book. So we're only going to get half the book now. It's already mired in the COVID, fiasco of of us all being, having our whole worlds turned upside down.
Yeah.
And now it's the victim of greedy marketeers, coming up with day and date releases so that they can save the streaming, so they can pad the numbers of a streaming service and supposedly save the box office. It's got a lot standing against it. It's also got a lot riding for it, but the lot that's riding for it is very niche. So yeah, they're doing everything they can right now to drum up all the good, the goodwill and the good hearsay that they can get together. So I wish them luck. I really do.
Kayvon, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Kayvon Greg says Dune looks really cool.
Yes,
Steve Hovecki, friend of the show, he said, listen to your co-host. So I'm assuming that he is a big Dune fan. But I asked if they would go into the theater to watch it. Steve says, I don't go to the theater. Society has ruined that for me. So
that was going to be the subject of one of my grievances sometime this month or this week or whatever. But yeah, I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna need to see the Dune movie in the big screen, unfortunately.
All right.
For me.
All right.
And I'm glad it's got a lot of buzz. I'm glad it got a standing ovation. I mean, it ultimately means nothing, although Denis Villeneuve's movies are classic shoo-ins for being cult classics, even if they are financial flops. Because his Blade Runner just suffered no ill will, even though no one went to see it, theoretically. Didn't do as well at the box office as they wanted it to, but everybody universally praised the movie as and I've seen it several times, and it's a really great movie. It really is. I almost blasphemy. I understand. I almost like it better than the original. So,
okay.
I've got high hopes for the Dune movie, but we'll see.
All right.
I never go on record.
It's funny again, and we'll get into this momentarily when I talk Shang-Chi, but real quick, The Matrix 4 reveals first look at Keanu Reeves as Neo ahead of the trailer debut. The trailer's debuting tomorrow, so we'll cover the trailer next week. How come?
Kind of looks like John Wick to me.
But I was about to say, and he looked like this in Bill and Ted's. Now, look, I gotta tell you, he looks. Oh, look, Julie Webb. Julie Wood just said, "Hi from Texas. I'm a fan." This is great, fantastic.
Hello, Julie Wood.
I'm a fan of Keanu Reeves in the beard. Don't get me wrong. This is a great look for Keanu Reeves, a fantastic look for him. But why is it in every single movie? Is something going?
That's the way he looks. Stallone looks the same in every movie.
No.
Just a look.
No. But Neo did not have long hair and did not have a beard. Was Keanu Reeves
He does now.
In order to greenlight Matrix, I'm wondering if the studio had two caveats. They're like, we will greenlight Matrix 4 if you will look like John Wick, so people will think it's John Wick 4 and they'll go see it. Or B, we'll go end or B, right? Or he's filming John Wick 4 and refuses to shave. He's just he's like, no, man, I gotta, I can't wear a wig.
I don't think so. I think that's just the way he looks, and they were fine with it,
I guess so.
They're gonna put him in the Neo priest jacket, and he's gonna be fine. Everybody's gonna be like, it's Neo. It's not John Wick. He's not in Armani. He's not wearing Armani, so he can't be John Wick. He's got to be
Bill
Neo.
Preston. He's back.
It's the same as Harrison Ford. You put the hat on him, he's Indiana Jones. You take it off, he's Harrison Ford. You know, that's how it works. But he doesn't change his look ultimately.
Have you checked out the website whatisthematrix.com?
No, I have not.
All right, so it's an interactive site, allows users to choose between a red or blue pill. And depending on which pill you choose, you're greeted with brief glimpses at the film's trailer. There are over 180,000 variations between both choices somehow, as you got to get clicking. I guess if you're clicking in this and that. And if you click on the red pill, you get Yahya Abdul Mateen. His mysterious character says, "This is the moment for you to show us what is real." If you choose to click on the blue pill, Neil Patrick Harris, presumably Neo's therapist, says, you've lost your capacity to discern reality from fiction. I got to tell you, as soon as I found out Neil Patrick Harris I was like, I'm down for this movie. Like, I'm really down for this movie. Don't get me wrong. Nostalgia sake, like, of course I'm excited for it. Of course I'm looking forward to it. But I'll watch anything that Barney Stinson is in. Hands down.
Okay. All right. Well, look. The Matrix is a mixed bag. That's all I got.
That's it. Okay. You're
The Matrix is kind of. I'm curious. I'm more curious than I am excited for it. But I mean, look, it's a positive. Like, they're gonna get my money. I'm curious to the point where they're gonna get my money. But
yeah,
it is a mixed bag. So
yeah. I don't know.
And I'm actually one of the few people who will not openly hate Matrix Reloaded and Revelations.
Yeah,
I don't openly hate those movies at all.
You just like going against the grain, though. Like, I've noticed this. Like, anything that the mass majority of people out there.
I just like what I like, and I dislike what I dislike. If that seems to go against the masses, well, the masses are asses, so that's why.
Oh. You are down for a fine rhyme, my man. Did you practice that before the show?
No, the masses are asses is an old saying, by the way.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
You're an old man. That kind of makes sense then. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The talk of the day, obviously, and we'll get to our review next segment, but we're going to talk about the breaking of the box office record that Shang-Chi did. And
don't talk about what we're going to talk about. Just talk about it.
I like setting things up. It makes sense.
No, don't set it up. Just talk about it.
There's a domino effect that has now kind of come into play here, right?
Yeah, so, for your benefit, not to mine. I don't really care about this.
It made a strong showing at the box office. It smashed the record for openings with a 4-day haul of $90 million. It's the Labor Day opening. And it's posted the second biggest 3-day debut of the pandemic year so far, behind Marvel Studios' pick Black Widow. The thing that I find kind of funny is we've been sitting here wondering how big of an impact Delta variant has been having on people going to the theaters. And obviously, being indoors, especially, I would say the Midwest is a strong theater-going area, bulk of the country. I know LA and New York are the big hubs in terms of going to the theater, but they're also, well, I was going to say California is heavily vaccinated, but they are also having a Delta issue. So there is this whole notion of, gee, are people, too afraid to go to the theater? However, when you present them something that is of interest, right? So another Marvel movie, an MCU movie, a brand new one, it has cultural implications kind of akin to, not on the same level, I think, as Black Panther, but definitely, brings back those kind of thoughts.
Right.
People go. And then you also look at something like Suicide Squad, which, again, had like almost 5 million views on HBO Max. So take that away, and you wonder what if Suicide Squad had debuted in theater only, coupled with some Marvel movie.
I don't know. The metrics on Suicide Squad are skewed. They're like Solo, right? There's enough to say this is why it happened, and there's enough to say that we have no idea why it happened, right? I mean, it's the first movie from James Gunn, who was a controversial figure for a little while. Maybe that's a residual. right? It's the first movie it's a first DC movie in a long time, trying to get them back on track with their shared universe. Maybe that's a contributing factor. No, there's very little interest in it. It is a retread of another movie that flopped theoretically, that financially disappointed. It didn't really flop, but and then the only difference in the two titles is the word "the." So
I know.
There are a lot of contributing factors as to why. And also, there is the box office. Also, there is the Delta variant. Also, there is the day and date. There's so many contributing factors. We cannot say exactly what it is that caused that. So that's a bad, you're trying to use that as a bad metric. It doesn't jibe. We'll find out really from Dune.
You think so?
Because it doesn't have, there's no baggage on it. There was baggage on Wonder Woman. There was baggage on Suicide Squad. There was baggage on Zack Snyder's Justice League cut. The only thing that there wasn't really a lot of baggage on was King Kong versus Godzilla, and also Mortal Kombat.
Right.
And they did okay, per the circumstances that we're under. Everything else kind of had an anvil around its neck. Was it, some kind of pre-existing condition that the movie had to suffer, had to go through. Maybe the least of which was Wonder Woman, where people were just really looking forward to it, but it had the baggage of the success of the previous movie, so it really, people were really looking for it to overperform. And also it was way earlier in the pandemic, so who's to say, right? Well,
I got to tell you, the one movie that I think is really going to be the tentpole as to whether or not people are afraid or not to go to the theaters is your favorite one, which is Venom: Let There Be Carnage. It is now, for a movie that at one point was rumored to now be releasing in January of 2022, we thought that Sony said, okay, no, we're going to fix it, toward the end of the month. Now it's been moved up 2 weeks. So it was originally slated for September 24th after the original COVID delays. But then it moved back to October 15th, and now it's going to be released October 1st. So it actually comes out before Dune, right? So we're going to see it has a theatrical window only. There's no HBO Max, simultaneous stream. I got to tell you, this is probably the litmus test for whether people are afraid or not afraid. Julie Wood had commented that she's a big fan of martial arts movies, so she was thinking about seeing Shang-Chi in the theaters. I think it's the old adage, right? It's a field of dreams, right? If you build it, they will come kind of mentality. Now, you're a huge fan of Venom, as you've said, so you're going to be front row and center. No question about it, right? I mean, you'll be there because you love it. Oh, no, that's me. I'll be there because I enjoyed the campiness of the first movie. And I got to tell you, it looks just as campy.
You enjoy bad movies. That's your thing.
Yeah, no, I did.
You don't like good movies.
I'm going in with very limited expectations. Extremely low expectations.
I mean, it looks terrible. Like, I'll let you eat everybody. Oh, okay. It's like, what am I watching? Fine.
Do you know what
that's what does it for you, that's fine.
I was reading on inverse.com, they had an oral history of Idiocracy. Remember the movie Idiocracy?
Yes,
Mike Judge?
Yes.
See? So, and
well,
they were talking
I remember
about
that you like it. You're a big fan of that movie. So
huge fan. I think Mike Judge is just brilliant. Like, he is
makes sense.
Under the radar brilliant with a lot of the stuff that he does. But it had this whole... They were an entire rundown on Ass, the movie, which is the movie that wins the Oscar that year in Idiocracy. And as they were filming, they're like, we should just release Ass the film. Like, don't even bother, because they were getting so little support from Fox that they were nervous about the opening. They're like, we should just release Ass the film. And I feel like I live in Idiocracy a little bit with a movie like Venom.
So do I.
But I'm okay with it. Like, I don't know. It's all about expectations, right? Expectations. I don't expect it to be a Marvel movie, but it was darn sure more. It's funny. I'll say ass, but I won't say damn. It is damn sure a much better experience than a lot of DC movies have been.
As several times, as a matter of
That's
fact,
true.
like a whole
Actually, that's
bunches
true.
of times.
But I was quoting something,
Yeah,
so
sorry, that's a caveat. All right,
it
that's
can't
fair.
go
That's
viral.
fair.
I don't know. There's something I don't know, something about it. But anyway, the good news, of course, is Shang-Chi has boosted Let There Be Carnage. Let There Be Carnage is now
Yay.
going to be out October 1st, which means I got to go see that. And then James Bond coming out the week after. I think to Hell or High Water, I think they're coming out with that movie as well, right? Unless Let There Be.
I'm actually more excited about the James Bond movie, but not that much excited. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'll see it in the theater.
No?
I don't know. I enjoyed the Daniel Craig Bond a lot. I even like Quantum of Solace, which a lot of people I'm surprised to find out didn't or do not like that movie as much. The one I don't like as much is Spectre, which is basically the one that everybody sort of dislikes.
I got you.
Also, I thought it took a step back with Skyfall, but that just puts me in the minority. That's fine. That's my weirdness. But I don't need to see it in the theater, in the under present circumstances. I didn't have a great experience at the theater today when I went to go see Shang-Chi. So that's just reinforced my desires to never set foot in that building again or any building like it. So I don't need to go rushing off to see James Bond, but I am looking forward to seeing it. I do want to see it.
Okay.
I think the next movie I'm going to have to just get a hazmat suit and go into the theater to watch is going to be Dune.
Yeah. Well, Julie Wood agrees with you that she would rather watch James Bond at home rather than in the theater. I got to tell you, I will get into my theater experience. I know you've briefly touched upon your theater experience because it was actually completely opposite. It was.
You had a good time.
I did, and I'll make a case as to why I need to almost see all of these movies in the theater. But we'll do that. We will review. We'll give our spoiler-ish review of Shang-Chi. We'll even talk a little bit about the end credits, what that means for the rest of the Marvel Universe. And we'll get your feedback because we're live. We're on Facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcast, YouTube.com/Rogue Matter. Keep commenting throughout the week. We will respond. Real quick, I want to pay some bills real quick. And our sponsor today is it's me, actually. It's Time Trader number 3, now live on Kickstarter, roguematter.com/Kickstarter. It'll go right to Time Trader. We are already funded, but you can get in on some stretch goals. We've got magnets coming. We've got motion covers coming. We've got a lot of cool things going. Dylan Sharp can rewind time whenever he wants to, and he tries to take his powers to the stock market to cash in, discovers there is no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme when an Illuminati of time traders just like him approach and are none too happy that he's trying to muscle in on their territory. Time Trader number 3. Fabian Nicieza, great endorsement, co-creator of Deadpool, said it was an impressive launch. Check it out, roguematter.com/Kickstarter. And when we come back, Shang-Chi review. We'll see you in about 30 seconds. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture. All right, Shang-Chi was obviously a huge Marvel movie that Bob Chapek called a nice little experiment because it had its theatrical window. It was going up against Delta virus, and it beat it, right? It beat it. Before we get into the film, you kind of talked about it last segment, and I want to go a little bit further in. Do you think that Marvel is just that unbeatable, or was there something about this particular film that got people out on Labor Day weekend, despite there being the Delta variant, which has obviously hampered a lot of our return to normalcy?
I don't think Marvel's unbeatable. I don't think anything is unbeatable. Star Wars wasn't unbeatable, and that would have been the best bet before, before the sequel trilogy and Solo. So I don't think it's unbeatable. I just think that they make a quality product, and if we're gonna risk getting sick, we're gonna risk it for the Marvel movie.
Yeah.
There's something also to be said for the groundbreaking aspect of this movie being an all Asian movie, an all Asian American movie,
right?
Right. And an American produced kung fu movie that stands on the same ground as a market that China has basically cornered, in their superhero kung fu movies.
Yeah.
So I think it's a series of firsts, that can't be counted out. I think it's the first serious event Phase 4 movie that we got. I know Black Widow is also a Phase 4 movie, but
I agree with you. It's
in
not,
a lot of controversy,
it's not the same.
And so this is the first. This is the new way we're going to go. This is post Spider-Man Far From Home, post Endgame, post Phase 3, the end of Phase 3, the end of the what is that being called? The Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Right. It's post Infinity Saga. So I mean, there's a lot to look at. There's a lot to be excited for. There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of intrigue. So I think that's what drew a lot of people out.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, and this is immediately what I thought when I was watching the film, though. At least the first half, right? I'm gonna break my review of Shang-Chi into 2.5 parts, right? And so this is the part in the podcast / live stream that we tell you spoilers, guys. There will be some spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, just put us on mute. Don't ever turn us off. Comment as if you're listening to us. Like, we won't know the difference. It'll be great. It'll be like, "What? Nice point, Hassan. Good job, Mike." Only say nice things.
That never happens.
Yeah. And here's real quick for anybody out there. The synopsis for the film is that Simu Liu stars as Shang-Chi in Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi must confront the past he thought he left behind when he is drawn into the web of the mysterious Ten Rings organization. The film, for me, started out... I know they had little posters that said, like, the blip, right? Like, it started out very loosely connected to the Marvel Universe. Very loosely, right? It was even in San Francisco, and there wasn't an obligatory, Ant-Man, cameo or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And if there was an Easter egg, I didn't see it, in the like, I went to see it today as well too. So it's not as if
should have gone together.
You would have had a much better experience if you had.
Yeah, probably.
We were there. It was like barely anybody in the theater. It was great. Like, you walk in, it was just nice.
That was not the case where I was.
No. Okay. Well, again, that's kind of the power of Marvel, right? I mean, it's
ain't that a shame?
Like, I wanted a Suicide Squad like opening, even though, again, no one, you and I both were like, no, we're not going to theaters to see this.
As I said, I'm thrilled for the film. I'm really happy for them, but holy crap. Everything I would have to say about that experience has nothing to do with the film. So let's just talk about the film.
Gotcha. I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, it's so different, but it was so cool. The martial arts sequences on the bus, the martial art, and in the tunnel were amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The folklore behind, the mythology behind the father meeting the mother and how they were kind of telling the backstory. And I'm sitting there saying, wouldn't it be amazing if this was its own storyline? Like, this wasn't connected to the Marvel Universe. I'm glad it is, and we'll get into that as we get into part 2 of my review and all that stuff, and we get your take as well. But my initial thought watching this was, how cool is this? And yet, we can't seem to come up with an original idea. This feels original to me. It is original, don't get me wrong, but it's part of this larger universe. But it feels like it could be its own franchise. Then by the second half of the film, it feels like Guardians of the Galaxy. My dad and I go and watch these movies together, and he actually, by the end of the movie, was like, this was like Guardians of the Galaxy. And I was like, that was exactly what I was thinking of. Because, and again, spoiler-ish, it goes in a place, it starts in an area that's extremely grounded. It starts in a place that feels like you're watching a martial arts film. I mean, really, all when he goes to find his sister and all this other stuff. I mean, even though there's some fantastical elements to it, it all feels very grounded. By the middle of the film, though, when they start getting into the mother's homeland and all these other things, it was, it was. I don't want to say it's typical of Marvel Studios, but it felt like two separate films. The climactic battle felt like
it was something out of Narnia.
Right.
That last battle was something out of Narnia.
It really was. And we had talked before the show in our pre-production meeting, and we said, look, the characters were so endearing, the dialogue was great, there was enough to the action was fantastic, so we were along for the ride. And at no point did anything that was happening pull me out to a point where I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm watching right now. But I got to tell you, it was, if this was the equivalent from a social standpoint of Black Panther, I think Black Panther was just a better movie. It is a very cool movie, but again, it just felt like two separate films for me. I'm glad it brought people out. I'm glad that it brought people to the movies. The reason I actually had a great experience, besides the fact that there was hardly anybody there, I think seeing all those stunts, and Julie Wood actually kind of said it when she said, she's a big fan of martial arts movies, to see that on the big screen versus, I have a big screen at home, don't get me wrong, I have a 58-inch TV that's fantastic, but to see it, the equivalent of like an entire wall and the sound and the action and everything, I mean, it was a visceral experience. It's the same sort of experience I had when I went to see Black Widow, where the visceral experience to me, made it worth me getting out there. The story it moved. Everything moved. But yeah, I think Narnia is a good like. It's good that you said that, because I actually now that you said that, actually, that really that clicks all of a sudden. Now, your thoughts?
Pretty much the same as yours to an extent. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that the format in and of itself is starting to get kind of old. The guy who's away, he's detached, he's refusing to call or whatever, gets slowly dragged back into his mythology, his own culture and mythology, and then he has to defend it against or defend the innocent against a rising tide of darkness that's coming back from a long time. I mean, it's been done.
Yeah.
So it's all a matter of like, did you, I've seen this before, but did you do it well or did you do it terribly? Right?
Yeah.
I will say, Snake Eyes did it terribly. Yeah. Shang-Chi did it well.
Right.
So, I mean, that's pretty much all you need. But I agree with you in the sense that I don't mind it being two different movies. I don't mind it going off the rails and being, and trying to go really deep into the metaphysical and the, and the hocus pocus kind of stuff, the otherworldly kind of situation, just because, I mean, how after one or two really good fight scenes, as we discovered with the Matrix, by the time Matrix Reloaded came over, with Revelations came when he's fighting Agent Smith or the thousands of agents, it was like, all right, I'm really tired of this punch up, like just move it out, move on, like either win or lose, but like move it on.
Right.
So I mean, I understand why they went for the all out, like, medieval battle, quote, spoiler again, medieval battle at the end of the film. But it is kind of a format, a samey kind of format. Aquaman, even though it's not a Marvel movie, and a Black Panther both did the same darn thing. It's fine. Yeah. I don't mind it, but I did notice like, I've seen this before. But I think they did it really well. And I think the other important aspect of it is that the characters were really likable.
Yes.
They were easy to follow and they were really likable, and you understood their motivations and their wants and their, and their needs and this and that. And so they didn't do things that were so contradictorial that you were like, I can't get behind what this guy's doing.
Right.
And you actually feel bad for the villain because he's,
yes,
he's clearly, blah blah blah. There's clearly something wrong with our villain, right? And so
I liked the twist of that until I didn't anymore. And what I mean by that
where was the
is,
line that got drawn?
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because, and again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, there's the middle section of the movie when he's got his whole family together, and he's discussing it with them, and he kind of, and says, "This is why I'm going to do it, and this is why we're going to go, get into the village."
Right.
And part of me is like, "Oh man, he's totally lying, and he's gonna turn on a dime." But he doesn't. He's genuine in what he's doing, and so I kind of liked it. I was like, okay, this is different. And usually the villain is this predictable, unsympathetic character that you've seen this movie a million times before, and if you're the hero or whatever, you should see through, right? In this case, the villain was as authentic as possible. So he was actually one of the strongest Marvel villains I think we've had in a long time. What I didn't like was actually the hero's reaction to him the entire time. Because it went back and forth so much where, he hated his father. Then he was like, wait a minute, his father took me in, and trained me because of his hurt. So it toggled too much for me to settle on how do I really feel about this when all was said and done.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
So,
I mean, I like that he wasn't a mustache twirler.
Yes.
That he had, at some point, he had been really despicable and became a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And that the reason he is now not a better person is because of grief, because of
right.
Which is inconsistent, which remains consistent or inconsistency, which is what I was going to say, but that's raw, bad English. Which is consistent with his.
That's impossible.
Which is consistent with his character,
right?
So, I appreciate that. I appreciated and I enjoyed the movie.
Right. I don't know if that's a good ride. No question.
I don't know if that's a good critique about a movie. That I'm really happy that I'm happy, that I'm out and about and I'm happy and I'm watching something and I'm not like disgusted by. I mean, I was more disgusted by how many trailers were in front of the movie because it was like 30 minutes of trailers, and that
my dad said the same thing. You have now entered old man territory. You're in get off my lawn territory.
So what? I mean, I don't care. It's really like, look, I showed up to this movie on time. I don't want to watch 30 minutes of trailers. Get the movie started so I can go home.
Yeah.
It's the COVID thing. It's the Delta thing. Like, I don't want to be here that long, movie. Like, get on with it. So.
His sister was outstanding in this. Xialing. I found her character to be one of the strongest characters, period. I mean, forget like the strong female character or however you want to describe it, right? That seems to permeate a lot of films. Like, I thought the way they handled her and she didn't have an arc necessarily that was a very wide arc in terms of character development, because at the end, obviously, and again, spoilers, she kind of assumes command of the 10 rings by the end. But I don't know, I found her screen presence to be very magnetic, and her character to just, I was always interested and excited when her character was on screen. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy Shang-Chi. The thing that Marvel does so well are the ensembles, right? They do these great ensemble casts in a way that, again, I had some questions, and I'll throw one out at you in a second, in terms of like logistics wise that I didn't quite get. But at no point, even though I was having trouble, completely following, Talo's past and the history. I mean, it was a lot of exposition thrown at you. It was done in a nice wood carving, though, so that was nice. Because the cast is so... The chemistry is there, and the characters are very identifiable and very sharp. At no point did I, again, lose interest in the ride. I was always along for the ride. Logistically, I want to ask you a question because it's the one thing I didn't understand in the film, and maybe you can answer it. Maybe someone else had a question too. How did his father find the village to court his mother if he wasn't able to find it again later on?
He didn't technically find the village. He found that oasis outside of the village that she led him to so that she could beat the crap out of him and then they could fall in love.
No,
then theoretically he didn't. If you watch it again, he didn't get to the village.
No, I know. He got to the entrance there. I know. But that's the entrance.
Not technically the entrance, and he didn't know that was the entrance.
Right.
So even if it was the entrance, it's not. He wasn't wise enough to know that was the entrance, right? Also, he fell in love with her. They wouldn't let them stay in the village, and he lost his desire to conquest. So he would have never come back to the village after that, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
There's so he. Let's just go through the timeline real quick. He discovers, because they had that cool car chase scene where the forest is, eating the people, which I thought was amazing. See, that's what I'm saying. I thought there's so many elements to this film that I thought were so original, and even original to Marvel films. So it was great to see things that were new, leading him on this path, right?
Yeah.
Finds her. They do their Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, dance that they do. They fall in love. There's a flashback sequence a little later, though. He comes back again. Remember, he was bearing a gift. How did he get back there to that? He had to go through the forest again. How did he do that?
Well, he was allowed in the second time, right? He had the,
Maybe.
It's like when you know where Wakanda is, and you can call them on the radio. They open the shield for you.
Okay. Now I'll accept it. I'll accept the explanation. Again, nothing glaring. Nothing like I'm sitting there saying, it threw me off. But I did think about it, and I'm like...
Now, here's the thing I will say, and this is me with my horse.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone keeps telling me is dead, but I'm going to kick it one more time. I think one of as you say, with Marvel loving the ensemble, I think they're taking more from that template, more from James Gunn than they are from Joss Whedon. Because the characters are never despicable to each other. Even though they bicker, there's a lot of bickering and bantering. And a lot of people think that arguing is a substitute for banter.
Right.
And arguing is not. Banter and bickering are very different things from arguing. And trying to kill each other or insulting one another or turning on one another and having, like, you never really see the Guardians actually get into a fist fight, in the middle of the ship, because there's a line that these particular characters, there's an invisible line that most of them won't cross. And so the same thing with most of the Russo brothers, where they do their ensembles, with the exception of, and I understand the irony of talking about Civil War, but the whole point of Civil War was that these people were brought to this, to a level of desperation where they ended up having to throw punches at each other. That was the main conflict. That wasn't just them at a karaoke bar,
right?
And Iron Man decides to.
It worked in Avengers 1. It did not have to be repeated in any subsequent film.
I argue it didn't work for me too much in Avengers 1, but the movie, there was so little of it in Avengers 1 that whenever it did happen, as jarring as I found it, it really didn't overpower the movie. The sequence at the end of the Civil War, where Iron Man and Captain America fight, is meaningful.
Yes, because
of all the groundwork that's been laid about the even though their friendship is a kind of a tenuous one, and there's a lot of contention between the two of them.
Yeah,
when they break and they finally end up starting to throw punches at each other, you can feel it.
Right.
That's the power of, I would say, James Gunn. That's the contribution of James Gunn, and to a lesser extent, the Russo brothers. in their formula of ensemble, their formula of camaraderie. And I think it's better for us if, even if they're bickering with each other, we know that they're on each other's side. I think it's easier for us to follow than when they're trying to shoot each other at left and right. And you're like, well, these guys aren't even a team. As soon as they change the flavor of ice cream in the mess hall, these guys are going to be at each other's throat again. So I think it's a big deal. I'm just responding to your comment that Marvel really does the ensemble thing really well.
What did you think of the Iron Man 3 tie-in? Brian Everham was just commenting about it, and that was the one thing I actually thought of you when Ben Kingsley made his appearance.
I didn't mind it. I mean, they sort of overdid it because the actual Mandarin explained it,
right?
And he said something I had said a long time ago. It's like, why is a major villain named after a flavor?
Yeah.
And so he actually said it. Now, the reason I would say that out loud is because I don't know Mandarin. I don't know know Chinese culture well enough to say, isn't that a sauce that you put on your chicken? Because that would sound ignorant. But when a Chinese guy says it, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. That's the same thing I thought. Well, he's from their culture.
Then it's okay. At that point, you're fine now. At that point,
he can speak. He knows whether it's just a flavor or if it's an actual thing. It could be. There could be deep cultural significance to the name Mandarin. But
that's the funny part. As an American, right, who has no cultural attachment to anything, I always thought it was a cool name, the Mandarin. That does sound pretty. That sounded pretty menacing.
When I was a kid, I remember Sprite Mandarin Orange.
Yes, I remember like a Mandarin Orange, right?
So I remember that, and then when I started getting heavily into Iron Man, the Iron Man comics and stuff like that, after I started working at Valiant, so I was rubbing elbows with Bob Layton all the time. So inevitably, I'm reading his comics to suck up to him, and they've got a villain named the Mandarin, and I'm like,
okay,
that's the name of that's an orange soda. Why is he named after an orange soda?
Him, huh?
The Mandarin?
Yeah.
I don't know. I do not know.
I have to look that up, actually.
But I do know I understood. Also, the Acts of Vengeance, the Mandarin was in a couple of X-Men
books.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and he was
I swore it was pronounced Mandarin because I'm like, it can't be named after an orange soda. It's impossible. Not going for that.
Yeah,
this was 30 years ago, people. So like, I don't want to hear anything about anybody about the here and now. This was 30 years ago, but that's how I felt about it. It's real.
No, I had no problems with it. I really didn't. All right.
But I'm glad that actually the actual Mandarin said, yeah, it's a chicken flavor, dude.
Yeah.
Stop naming characters after me. They did address it. And then, I think having Ben Kingsley in there could have been overkill, but they handled it really well. He didn't chew too much scenery. He didn't take up too much oxygen. So they handled it, and they addressed the elephant in the room. So, all right, fair enough. Now you may move on.
Right.
We're all with you now.
I think there's one too many cute furry creatures in a film for my liking at this point. Right. That's kind of.
All right.
Kind of gotten to a level.
Nah, not for me.
No.
No.
The furrier, the better. Bring him on.
No, there wasn't that much of it, so it's fine. I wanted them to explain the giant horse lions, and they did. Nope.
We ain't got no time for that. We ain't got no time for that.
We ain't getting into that, but I'm sure there'll be sequels, so we'll find out.
Well, the end credit scene says it. All right. Last comment that I'll make.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to break. Is the end credit scene. Not the very last one, but the second to last one, where Wong comes in. Two thoughts that came into mind. Awkwafina. Why did Wong invite Awkwafina? She doesn't have the 10 rings. Like, why is she included in that?
No, but she's with him, and then she was a fighter. Now she's an archer now. So I guess
I love the fact that she's like, I literally only learned to shoot a bow yesterday. I thought that was great. Because I was thinking the same thing. I was along for the ride. I had no problems with it, but I did laugh because I'm like, this is a common movie thing where it's like,
no, it's a button. Also, it's a gag, right?
Yeah.
The two characters that they were eating dinner with before said that they needed to do something with their lives, right? And they needed to go out and do something more than just be caddies and valets, right?
Yeah.
So by the end of the film, they're telling us, yeah, we went out, we got a life, and we went to freaking Middle Earth, and we fought dragons and this and that. And then, so at the end, if Wong came in and only asked for Shang-Chi, that would have stepped on the joke. It only completes the joke if both of them get up and leave.
I guess so. All right. I love, again, spoiler, I love the Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo scene, though, because he kind of sits, he put a bow on how I felt about the whole movie when he's like, welcome to the circus. And it did feel, at certain points in the middle, to me, that it kind of went off the rails a little bit. But then he kind of reminded me, Bruce Banner reminded us that this is still connected to this Marvel universe. This is still something that, could you imagine being a superhero? And it felt like a very good initiation for Shang-Chi as a hero into the rest of the Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, once you get into the mysticism, all bets are off. Also, once you have a movie in your franchise where everybody is going to a dude's mansion, where he's got all little gadgetry and the collectible items all over the universe in his mansion, which is located in the head of a giant celestial being, in the severed head of a giant celestial being.
Right.
You gotta kind of turn your logic sensors. You gotta turn it down a little. You gotta tweak it a little bit to accept that, because it's all under the same umbrella now, right? Especially since they were in Avengers. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy are part of the Avengers, family now. So all of that is mixed in. So now if you go to, you go to another world and there's freaking dragons and stuff like that, sure. It happens, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It happens. So, dragons happen. Sometimes dragons happen.
I would say strong film, along for the ride throughout. Definitely worth seeing to me on the big screen. Your final thought, and then we'll go to break.
I would say the same thing. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that it's successful. I'm glad I don't have to hear about this is the death knell of the Marvel franchise, or that they jumped the shark or anything like that. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't want to get into any of that stuff, but I'm so glad I don't have to listen to that level of criticism about that, and that the only criticism we're gonna have about the film is whether certain scenes were a little too much or a little too little, right?
Yep.
I enjoyed the lead. I enjoyed Awkwafina, of course. I enjoyed the film in and of itself. The fight scenes were fantastic. The special effects were great. I mean, per usual. It's it's a comic book I never read.
Nope.
Didn't have much interest in, and now I am a fan. I'm into it. I'm with Shang-Chi, so it worked for me.
Let us know what you think. Comment in the Facebook feed. Comment in the YouTube channel as well. We will write back to you throughout the week on your thoughts. Coming up next, Rogue Rage, Marvel's What If. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. All right, we like to hand this segment over to Hassan and let him, again, both positive or negatively, go on his Rogue Rage. This week, Rogue Rage, Marvel's What If.
Are you watching What If?
I've watched the first 2 episodes.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the matter with you? You're what's wrong with the world. You are what's wrong with the world.
Marvel's What If, I would say, animated TV series that outwardly connect to, or outwardly connect to a greater whole to me is my Venom, is what Venom is for you.
Yeah, you're not alone. I mean, a lot of people denigrate animation for some reason. Even though we come from comic books,
Yeah, I know.
and the
No,
animation is literally comic books brought to life. In more of a traditional romantic way than a live action movie
cinematic,
or whatever.
yes. Mm-hmm.
But most people are just like really down on the stuff. I am enjoying.
Make no
What
mistake. Hang on,
if?
hang on. Not down. I'm not down on it. I just don't get the sense of urgency from.
That's what I mean. But people are like, yeah, it's not that. That's not that important.
Right.
And I disagree.
Okay.
I strongly disagree. I think franchises are saved sometimes by their animation.
Mm-hmm.
Observe Star Wars, but fine. I think having that been said about What If, it's a weird. I really have a weird criticism about it because I think the first two episodes were like orders of magnitude special.
Yeah.
There was a lot of heart and compassion put into them. They definitely put their entire Sunday punch into those first two films, the first two episodes, and the second episode being, in my opinion, the more powerful, but mainly because Chadwick Boseman is no longer with us, right? So that really showcased So I was like, it was an easy get, but it did get me.
Yep.
My criticism of the series as now is not really that much of a criticism, but it has become kind of sci-fi tropey now.
Okay.
It's kind of seems like it dropped the magic, the magical aspect of it, and it's like, now that we got you, we're just going to show you some batshit crazy stuff that that could not have happened if not for a couple of changes or turns of the dial in the MCU. So I think it's still great. I think the animation is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish more animated stuff would look like this, would look consistently like this. And I enjoy it on a regular basis, and I haven't seen an episode that I disliked yet. But I really did think the entire series was going to be these, that it was going to have the heart and the majesty of the first two episodes, and it doesn't seem. It seems like they're falling back in the middle, and probably they're gonna pull out the stops towards the end. So I guess I'll be rewarded if I stick with it long enough. I'm not down on it. I'm not gonna quit. I have no complaints about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
By the nature of it, it's called What If. So I mean, I don't have to hold it to any kind of continuity or canon or anything like that, because it can do whatever it wants. So that's another really great thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all wraps up. I wish the last two episodes were of the same caliber of the first two episodes.
Yeah.
Because it made me think I was in for a completely different kind of series. But that is not to say the last two episodes were bad by any stretch of the imagination.
How far behind am I? Is today episode 5 was this morning, or was it episode 4 this morning?
I think there's been 4. Yeah. Today was episode 4.
Oh, today was episode 4. Friend of the show, Victoria Bennett, was commenting to me. So again, I haven't seen the last two, the Black Widow one or the.
No, there've been 5. There's been 5. I missed one.
Today's 5. Right.
There have been 5.
But she said that Doctor Strange one went dark. She said it was strangely dark.
Yes, well, so did the zombies one. Spoiler. Okay. But by the name, and that's the name of the episode, is Zombies. Okay, it's not me.
And that was a very popular Marvel concept too. Was the Marvel Zombies concept? Because they wanted to jump on the Walking Dead phenomenon back when it came out.
It was shameless. It was absolutely shameless.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they did it.
So the best, though.
Whenever you involve zombies in our continuity, it's always going to get a little dark. But look. I mean, Doctor Strange kind of, you can argue Doctor Strange was kind of on the caliber of the first two episodes, as in it had the heart.
Yeah.
Wasn't
it literally about his heart?
Well, it was a morality tale basically, and it was it was a cautionary morality tale about, love and, taking things too far, getting too attached to things and having too much power.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really strong, but it wasn't quite there, but it's fine. They're all very good. I enjoy all of them. I will keep enjoying them. I have nothing terribly negative to say about them whatsoever.
Well, we will do a What If series in review. You like that?
Sure.
Season in review. We'll do season review when all is said and done. I will catch up. I will force myself to catch
we'll see about that. That'll be the feat,
well,
right?
Right
That'll
now
be
I'm
the
watching
accomplishment.
The Chair on Netflix. Very good show. And I'm also, I'm undecided on it right now. And I'm also watching Ted Lasso, which is just, that's just a...
Did you watch Clickbait?
What's that?
It's been trending number 1 the last 2 weeks. Clickbait. With your
Ted
boy
Lasso?
from Entourage in it.
Wait, I'm lost. There's something called Clickbait?
Oh my God. Never mind. We'll talk later. It's on Netflix. It's been number 1 trending on Netflix for 2 weeks. But
The Chair.
And it's got Adrian, what's his name? From
Grenier?
No. Grenier, yeah. Clickbait, not The Chair. Clickbait has been number 1 2 weeks. Netflix. Okay. Adrian Grenier, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
From Entourage.
Oh, yeah.
So I figured you would have just gravitated right to it.
Maybe I will now. See?
We'll see.
Too much content. Too much content. Speaking of which, next week, Why the Last Man debuts. We'll take a peek at the Vertigo book that is now a Hulu series and let you know what we think about the debut episode. The Matrix is dropping their first trailer, Matrix 4, tomorrow. So we'll dive into that trailer and we'll find some clever way to discuss a trailer that we haven't seen yet, or for a movie we haven't seen yet, and see just can we do the time warp and go back to 1999 all over again? I wish we could, actually. I really wish we could. That's our show for tonight, guys. And gals. We will see you next week.